Welcome to the Mild Opinion Podcast. I'm Luke.
I'm Logan.
And today we're going to be talking about some Star Wars projects that we think would be good for the franchise at this point that have not been officially announced in any capacity. Most likely will not be on the trajectory they're going. But we're doing this episode because we both are concerned about the future of Star Wars. So we decided we were going to just throw out some ideas for what we think would be just things we'd like to see in the franchise sooner rather than later. But if they were to ever happen, are most definitely a very long way off.
Yeah.
So do you have any idea that you'd like to start with in particular?
Yes, and I would like to preface this that some of this stuff has already been talked about. Like, a lot of these are like,
a lot of these are stuff people have specifically been asking for.
Yeah, like they said they want, yeah. But, and, probably, like we said, it might not happen, but these are things that would be cool or just something that it seems like the fans would want.
Yeah.
Something that could, like you said, try and save current Star Wars.
Yeah.
But the first thing I'll start off with, and this is one that I think, it's been talked about a lot. Everybody kind of is in agreement. Like, yeah, that would be cool. But a movie revolving around Cal Kestis and, those kinds of, the games and all that, like, in that time frame. And a lot of people have talked about it, and they've also talked about, who would play Cal Kestis and all that, and,
Well, I would think that actor could play him.
Because that is him. But, I think recently, somebody interviewed, who was it? Oh, Will Poulter. He was like, I would love to be Cal Kestis. And I was like, that also, I guess, kind of works.
But, that works.
Yeah, it's random. But yeah, I don't know. I just feel like those games are so popular, and people like the story behind it. Like, they like Cal Kestis as a character and stuff like that. So I'm like,
he's a good character.
And the person who plays him is a pretty decent actor. So why would you not just just go for it? It's right there.
Yeah. I think too, Cal Kestis is popular enough of a character, and he, in what we're talking about current problems with Star Wars and stuff, he himself, after the most recent game, the way his story leaves off is at a very dark spot where his master died, and he basically gave in to the dark side to be the villain of that game. So I doubt something would ever come of it with Cal Kestis being the main character in something. I could definitely see him making cameos and stuff, and I think he's a very unique Jedi. If they were to go with how I feel like he's pretty crafty and stuff too, with all the different lightsabers and stuff. But and his story too, it's it feels like a Star Wars thing, but it's set completely apart from any of the other major stuff, apart from that Inquisitors are in it and Darth Vader is in it. Yeah. So I think, that would be a great thing to see him in other stuff, because he is a cool character.
Well, and I feel like, this might be a little far-fetched, but, as far as, trilogies and stuff go, if they wanted to, they could make, a trilogy out of that. Because, like you said, his stuff is so far removed from, what else is going on in, Star Wars movies and stuff, where we're at now. That, you can make him, his own trilogy set during that, same span of time.
Yeah.
And, he could have, his own movie. He could just be, the next, kind of like Luke. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just have him do his own thing where, in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, it's cool. And something that's cool about him, too, is the stuff that he deals with in the games are so, it's really built off of the past lore of Star Wars. So in even in the most recent game, he fights battle droids. He attacks a guy who was frozen since the High Republic era, who's that's the bad guy. He deals with other Jedi and the Night Sisters and all of this stuff. I think it's such a good window of opportunity to so much Star Wars lore set in one of the most interesting times in Star Wars, which honestly has tons of projects in it, but it's because there's a lot to explore, and it's just a cool time, you know. Well, going off of that, then I'll jump into an idea I have. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say this. This is just something I've always headcanon that I have, which is I think it would be great to see Starkiller return. And I've always felt like the way they could canonically do it, they'd obviously have to bring his power down a little bit. He can't be force explosion and vaporizing the stormtroopers and stuff, but as a character where he is the direct apprentice of Darth Vader, part of the plot of the original game is that Darth Vader tried to keep it a secret from the Emperor and it didn't work. And so I think a great way to just pull that off is that the Inquisitors are a branch Darth Vader's using to hunt down Jedi and stuff, but it's he has an official apprentice, which is Starkiller, and the Inquisitors could be just a front for that. And it could even be the Inquisitors don't seem like they're around as much in the original trilogy and stuff, so I don't know what happens to a lot of them. I know a lot of them die, but it could be a thing where it's close to Rogue One, A New Hope time. Make that when something with Starkiller is happening, and have it be that Darth Vader wants the rest of the Inquisitors gone because they're too dangerous or something. And it could go back to the stuff we've talked about before, where it's make a tragic Star Wars story where Darth Vader uses Starkiller to go hunt down the rest of the Inquisitors, and then because the Emperor is gonna kill Starkiller and is questioning Vader's loyalty, Vader could kill Starkiller, and that's the end of the movie. And I've always, since the Inquisitors have been around, I'm just it doesn't seem like Vader even likes the Inquisitors.
Yeah.
So just have it be they are there to kind of just put the Emperor at ease.
Yeah.
Of oh, they're just our little henchmen, goons, you know?
Yeah, I think something like that would be awesome, because it's another one of those things though where, and this is kind of just a trend with any Star Wars game, because I know it's all expanded universe stuff, and a lot of times Star Wars doesn't like to dip into that, but it just feels like there's these characters in the games that people love, and it's a mix of characters from lore, characters that are actually part of the universe, movies and stuff, comics and stuff like that, but it's just it feels like Star Wars never has any interest in putting the game characters or the game stories on screen.
Yeah.
Why? There are so many people who love that. Same thing with, one of the things we'll talk about later, but no interest at all in putting game characters on screen. And a lot of people are why?
Yeah.
Cal Kestis is awesome. Starkiller is awesome. Why do you're just eh. Yeah, a lot of people love them.
Nah. And it's always really cool characters. It's not one of the mill champion hero characters. It's always somebody who has a really intricate plot or even isn't a great person. And just with Starkiller, I don't necessarily want to see him get introduced in the current era they're exploring, which is between episode 6 and 7, because I'm that'll just take away from what he was, because his existence in the first place was supposed to be a secret.
Yeah.
And I think in terms of video game characters, I don't think there's necessarily one that's bigger that could be introduced apart from Cal Kestis, and it's maybe it could be a thing where they're both introduced at the same time.
Yeah, I was gonna say, put him in the Cal Kestis movie too. Yeah, we'll make our own.
But an interesting thing of that is I know there was an idea, and I don't know if it was ever taken in official capacity. There was leaks and rumors, and I think even that it was originally in the script that in Rogue One. Do you remember the Jedi from Starkiller, or from Force Unleashed and stuff with Starkiller, named Rom Koda, the Jedi Master who teaches him to be a Jedi and stuff?
Yeah.
There was a rumor he was going to be in Rogue One. And it's
untapped potential again.
Yeah. So it's a small step to get, in my opinion, a game character into the mainline Star Wars, because they took characters from animated stuff and made them direct Star Wars characters that are literally the current era. Like Thrawn is the next big bad, and he originally came from a book, then came from an animated show, and now has made it into that. So you can introduce these people without people necessarily knowing all of their lore and backstory, just if you take the time to make it make sense and still explain who they are, but you don't have to give everything about that. Just bring them in, and a lot of people will already be like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. And we, while we're on the topic of, like, the games and stuff, I'll bring this up again. We talked about it before. We don't need to get too far into it because this has been talked about a million times. Yeah. But anything to do with the Old Republic,
it's
literally anything.
Tens of thousands of years of lore to tap into. So many interesting characters. I think we've talked about it. You can make an entire trilogy based around Revan.
Yeah.
You can make entire trilogies of, like, any of these Sith, or, like, there's tons of Jedi and stuff too from that time, and there's just not.
Yeah.
It's so... What... I don't get it.
I will say, Star Wars fans in general have been asking for Old Republic stuff since... I remember seeing people talk about it on the internet when I was, like, a child.
Yeah.
Like, literally, like, 2009. I'm just, on the internet, the old school internet, seeing people talk about it in, like, forums and stuff like that. So I'm like, I just, you guys, like, they all obviously know the fans want this. Why are you not just putting that out there?
Yeah, I have no idea. And there's so many interesting characters in stories that are already there. There's also, like, books and stuff, like, galore about the history of all of that. So I don't understand the shyness of that unless it is just caught up in some insane legal stuff or whatever, and that's just why it's taking forever. But that is a huge time of untapped potential.
And I think about that too, because I'm like, there's so much lore. Like, there's the books, there's games, there's, everything. So it's not even like they need to, like, have a whole story, like, written, you know what I mean? You just need to take the time to put it, boots on the ground, get your everything, in order. Get a director, get somebody to direct it, you know what I mean? Get your actors, find out what part of the story you're going to do. Like, the story itself is already there. You just need to put the project into motion. Just do it.
Yeah.
And it's not like it would be a flop because, like I said, people have been wanting this for, the past 15 years.
I would also say, too, just in that era, I feel like a big part of why that era is so popular is because it has so many insanely cool villains, and I feel like Star Wars villains, when they're done right, are super... They're part, or like a huge driving force of what makes it so popular. So I'm like, you have like 10, 12, 15 insanely cool main villains you can just run through there. And along with that, because there's so many evil, horrible, big bad Sith from that time and stuff, the Jedi and people who go up against them are also, like, a lot different from Jedi we see now, but are also, like, really interesting.
Yeah.
So I think, just untapped potential that they seem shy to tackle. Alright, one I'll throw out that I've seen, like, people ask for it before. It's not been, like, a huge one. Is, I think, a origin prequel story for the Emperor would be great. I know that the Acolyte now complicates that a little bit because Plagueis showed up at the end of it, but I'm pretty sure the Acolyte took place like 100 years before a Phantom Menace or something like that, so just knock it to about 10 years before the Phantom Menace, or just in Palpatine's lifetime. How did he come across Plagueis? Why is he just so evil?
Yeah.
And I think that could also just be, in terms of Star Wars, it could be a very character-driven story while also just telling you a lot of the history of the Sith in the time from when there's hundreds of them, like in the Old Republic, to like the rule of two,
Mm-hmm.
and give you more story on like the story of immortality Palpatine tells Anakin, and why Palpatine. How honestly, it's always something that's just baffled me about Star Wars. Is like, why is Palpatine smart enough to plan out basically his entire life to become the most powerful person in the entire galaxy?
Yeah.
It's not that I don't think he could have always been evil, but I think it would have be interesting to explore. It's like, how was he given so much wisdom and like power to this this man, you know? I think that would be a really cool story.
I think that would be as well. And I mean, that's one of those things too, because like the Emperor is one of the original characters. Like you see, you know, in the original trilogy, he's like the driving force behind all this. Like everything that's going on is because of him. Then you see in the prequels, all right, well here's him now. Like that's where he came from. You know what I mean? You learn a little bit of lore about it. So then it's like, well now that means, you know, we see where it kind of ends with him. We see where he was before, like all the original trilogy happened. That only leaves where he was before that. That's it. That's all you got to do to complete the entire story is right there.
Yeah,
Just complete it.
This can also honestly eliminate what I know a lot of people have brought up concern about with like the new. It's where people have said it seems like every single Star Wars project that comes out now seems like an attempt to explain the First Order and the Emperor coming back, and it's like, just throw in like the reason the Emperor came back is because he figured out the secret of immortality, and it shows you how he got to at least starting to figure it out in that, or like him pursuing that.
Yeah,
you know, I think that movie just would. I feel like it would add a lot to him. Not that he needs a lot, because he's just a good bad guy to begin with, but I think it would just be a very interesting. I mean, it would be dark compared to the Star Wars stuff we're getting right now, but it would be cool. It would be cool. That'd be a cool one.
I think. Well, speaking of like how that would be like darker and stuff, that will lead into our next thing. Which these are more kind of like stylistic, thematic ideas rather than like a specific character storyline to follow. But I've seen a lot of people on the internet talk about too how doing a stylistically different Star Wars movie or show would be kind of cool, such as like, you know, a Star Wars like darker kind of like horror-ish kind of movie.
Yes,
because there's a lot you could do with that, especially like, you know, lore-wise and expanded universe stuff. Like,
there's a rumor every now and then. I think there's a rumor right now that there is a Star Wars horror movie in development, and I think that's definitely something that could take a lot of different forms, because going into Legends and stuff again, there's Project Blackwing, which was like the Stormtrooper zombie virus thing. I've heard plenty of people give you like a horror movie story that's from the perspective of like rebels on a ship that's lost power, and Darth Vader gets on board and is like coming to kill him, and I'm like, there's a lot of different things you can do. There's tons of weird Force lore entities and stuff like that,
like the Force god, the ancient Force gods and stuff.
And I mean, Star Wars in itself is an entire galaxy of monsters and stuff like that too. You just there's a lot of different stuff.
Bring in the Ewok hunt movie.
An Ewok hunt movie. That would honestly, I feel like I'd be excited to go see that.
Yeah.
I feel like this is gonna be insane.
And then the other stylistic kind of different movie that I've seen people talk about online, which I think this one would be kind of cool too, is I know we've seen stuff like it here and there, just not to the degree that I'm talking, is a war style movie, which, you know, all of Star Wars is like war, but like gritty, like, you know, actual, like, not with like the Jedi, like the hero's arc and all that kind of stuff, like a group of like clone troopers or something like that, and they're like pinned down, and like a gritty, like actual, like similar to like what we see in like our like regular war movies, something like that, like a real gritty, like they're pinned down, they gotta, you know, hold the line, like they're pretty much screwed, like they don't know what they're gonna do.
Yeah, and there's several things like that from like the Clone Wars show where it's just a storyline where it's like a group of clones and maybe a Jedi or something are in this like horrific war scenario, and a lot of times it's like they don't even make it out of it, like they die. But yeah, they could make a big live action budget movie about just this clone squadron in like then the Clone Wars, come up with some Jedi, throw them in with this clone battalion, and it's like they're the last clones abandoned on like this planet that's getting overrun with droids or something like that.
I mean, they could do the same thing with like, you know, if they wanted to go a little bit further on in the timeline, like they could do the same thing with like a Rebel Squad too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just something like that, but just like a really like gritty war movie. Like it's not just like, oh yeah, like this looks like a regular, like your run of the mill Star Wars stuff. Like make it like feel like a war movie, but it's just in the Star Wars setting.
Yeah, that would be cool. I'll go to one. This is one I know that is also like requested a ton, and there's already a story to it, but it's one that I think would be interesting, and it'd probably be animated if they were to do it. Is the Grievous origin story, because
that would be awesome.
General Grievous is such a he for his movie's sake and for the Clone Wars sake, he's just a good bad guy to have to deal with because he's weird and spidery and mechanical, and he's just iconic with all the lightsabers and his voice and stuff. But yeah, I mean, you hear it talked about. His backstory is a really tragic thing, and if they were to explore it, it would be like, maybe this will make sense as to why he's just a few organs and like a brain in this metal big thing, and honestly make it really tragic and make you feel bad for him.
Yeah, well, because honestly, like, he is a really cool character in general, just like what we've seen from him, like on screen, stuff like that. But in like the like legend stuff, like the expanded universe stuff, the lore that they gave him is like actually incredible. Like that, it's like that's like wow, like that's really good lore. Like that's really awesome.
And something I think it's cool, they explored it in the Clone Wars a little bit, and they didn't really go past a certain point. There's a point where I think it's like Kit Fisto and a bunch of clones find General Grievous's like home base, and it has a bunch of his home world artifacts and weapons and stuff, and they're like, oh, it's some ancient warrior or something. It's like, no, that's him.
Yeah.
So go back to who was he before what happened with Count Dooku and the Emperor, and then why did he become this? And honestly too, it could be go from him becoming this legendary warrior to like the tragic thing that happens, and then training with Dooku too would be great to see.
Yeah. And
then even getting his first lightsaber and stuff would just be really cool. Yeah, I have one more idea that I think would just be cool to explore. Do you have any more that you'd like to talk about?
Not really anything crazy, but I know a lot of people have talked about this online too, is just Qui-Gon movie.
Qui-Gon, yeah. I think Qui-Gon, every time I watch The Phantom Menace, I think he's probably the most interesting character in the movie, and I like how his ideals as a Jedi don't go with like the pen and paper ideals of like the Jedi Council and stuff. Yeah. He's an interesting character. Well, my last thing that I would like to see explored, and I'm hoping that at some point they get more into this, is the story of, and my timelines might be a little messed up, I don't know if these are things that were happening at the same time in Star Wars lore, is the Mandalorian Jedi Wars, where like they see each other as enemies, like what we hear them say in The Mandalorian and stuff. And I don't know if that coincides with the story of Mandalore the Great, who is the guy who invented the black saber, or the dark saber. I think if those aren't one story, I think I might be messing up the time on them, but I think both of those would be something cool to explore.
Yeah, well, I agree, because they've explored it a little bit more now with, you know, the Mandalorian series and all that, which is cool, because I feel like the general populace of Star Wars fans are like, oh yeah, you know, the Mandalorians are kind of underappreciated. And they started doing more with it in the Clone Wars and all that. Now we got a lot more with it now, which is awesome. But also, once again, an entire story that's already written just needs to be put on screen.
Yeah.
An entire group of people who want it.
Yeah.
You just got to do it. You know what I mean? Like, it's already out there. You just have to do it.
I think it would just be cool, too, to explore, like, we know what Mandalorians look like right now, but I don't know where I've seen this. I know that they haven't always looked like that and that their armor has, like, advanced. So going back to a time when they looked just more like straight-up Spartans, basically, would be really cool.
Yeah.
And to learn about their, like, where their rules and ideals and stuff came from. Because it's a thing in The Mandalorian where the Mandalorian is under the impression that Mandalorians never show their face to anybody, and it's because he grew up with Death Watch, but they say Death Watch stands by traditional Mandalorian rules, so, like, take us back to this time when it was even more cutthroat than what we've learned Mandalorians are already like.
Yeah.
That'd be really cool.
I agree. And I think that's another one of those things similar to what we've talked about earlier is, like, there's a lot of people who want it, and it's kind of insane to me that we're throwing out all these random projects compared to, stuff like that. Like, why?
Yep.
Disney just doesn't want to make money, I guess.
Yeah, and I gotta say, I have this really bad feeling that The Mandalorian and Grogu is gonna be like the nail in the coffin of just, we made this movie for no reason as a cash grab.
Yeah.
When it could have been something great,
Well, all we need is a few more Star Wars failures, and hopefully Disney can either get it together or get rid of it, sell it to somebody else.
Yeah.
Hand the reins back to George.
Yeah. I think within probably the next 5 years we'll be able to see if they'll, like, get back on track or not.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. And in the meantime, a lot of Star Wars fans are left in limbo on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have anything else you'd like to add? Anything more you'd like to see from Star Wars?
Don't think so.
I know, I'll kind of generalize it, but you and I have talked about how, like, the episodes 1 through 6 of Star Wars, like, the original plan of Star Wars lays out the story of it being, like, a tragic thing, and the fall of Darth Vader being the catalyst for, like, this horrible 50 years war or whatever. That's basically just what needs to be brought back, is, like, the not shying away from it being dark when it needs to be, but even when it was dark for that, it wasn't too much. So I don't know the idea of why they're just really shy about not wrapping things up nice and tidy at every single moment, because down the line it comes unraveled when it's just like, well, there's been no purpose to any of this,
Yeah, I agree. And then one more thing, too, that I'm just like, I just don't understand. As I get, like, they're trying to move on and, have different stuff. But, like, I guess, like, the Rey movie, the Rey saga is, in production or going to start soon or whatever. The story's written out. But I'm just like, man, I thought we were done with that. I thought we all agreed that we were done with that. I thought we were over that.
Yep.
I don't think that's the answer to what we want, Disney.
Yeah, I don't think it needs a whole trilogy. I wouldn't hate a thing where if it's just like Rey shows up later on, but I feel like it was so fast. It's like The Rise of Skywalker is done. How do we bring him back?
Bring him back.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I just feel like, I don't know. I know they're trying to push what we already know forward, because I guess, that kind of is, like, the future of Star Wars in terms of, like, Jedi and stuff like that. But I'm like, I don't know. Maybe we should backtrack a little bit. Like,
yeah.
Because then what? You know what I mean? Like, it's not like you're going to make a new, Luke type of story. You're not going to make a new Anakin type of story. Like, this is going in a direction where I'm like, what is this even going to be?
And it feels like there's never a plan for it. They're just like,
Yeah.
well, there's a new Sith Lord
Yeah, like
with
what?
a tie to Darth Vader.
Yeah, like what
Yeah.
is this gonna be?
Yeah,
We don't need that.
this is the last thing I'll say on that. I saw a rumor a little bit ago, and this is something with Star Wars Starfighter that comes out,
Mhm.
I think 2 years from now, but it's that the villain in that movie, it was like a rumor of what the villain is, and it was like, oh, it's a First Order officer trying to reorganize the First Order, and a dark side user with ties to the Sith. And I'm just like, with that movie, come up with something just a little bit more original.
Yeah.
Come on. So I hope that's not true, and I hope that as we learn more about Star Wars Starfighter, that it kind of takes on like a life of its own instead of just being held down by ideas that have already kind of had their day.
Yeah.
You know. But yeah, that's my last thoughts on Star Wars. It's not in a place I'd like it to be right now.
I agree. I feel like I've gotten so discouraged by it that I'm like, I see new stuff come out, and if it's not something I'm like directly interested in, I'm like, I don't even.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If I get around to it, I'll watch it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, this has been the Mild Opinion Podcast. Thank you very much for listening. We'll see you next time.